on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, exactly 100 years ago today, in armistice, a truce was signed, ending the hostilities of World War I. Ever since then, our nation has held an annual day of commemoration during which the sacrifices of the men and women who have served in the military are remembered. Once celebrated as Armistice Day, in 1954, President Eisenhower signed a bill declaring November 11th as Veterans Day, a day to remember all who have served and fought in all of America's wars. Veterans Day is a day we fly the flag proudly, and a day that television is often filled with old war movies and commentaries and documentaries that chronicle the lives of many who served and fought, defending the freedoms we enjoy today. While we cannot help but remember the ultimate sacrifice made by some for this country, the focus of this day is on the living, those who survive and walk among us. And we don't have to look far or hard to find them. They are all around us. Some veterans wear the scars of battle that all can see, and others have wounds that are hidden from view but run deep into their very soul. Some proudly extol the benefits of military life, while others admit candidly that the tough times they and their families encountered changed all of their lives forever. There are some you can point out in a crowd, and others who blend into the background, their mild manner and easy temperament not fitting that Hollywood image of the rough and tumble soldier. You see, not all airmen are like Jimmy Stewart or Steve McQueen. Not all soldiers like Audie Murphy or John Wayne. Nor are all sailors like Richard Gere or Tom Cruise. Sure, there are some, and some of those I named. But the average service person is just like you and me. What sets them apart is their sense of calling and commitment to their country, and their genuine desire to see this nation thrive both at home and abroad, so that you and I can live lives in prosperity, free from oppression and degradation. Most veterans don't serve for the awards and accolades they might receive, but because of their love for this country is so great, they are willing to give everything, even themselves, that we might live in safety and freedom from the bondage of others' desires to hurt us. That kind of love Jesus has had for us. His love was so great that he too was willing to give everything, even himself, so that we did not bear the weight of our sins. While not everyone is called to serve in the military, each and every one of us is called to love one another with the same love Christ had for us. A love that enables us to place the needs of others ahead of our own wants and desires. Look at today's gospel. Jesus is pointing out to his disciples the unwillingness of some to do this, showing them people who only give out of the leftovers that they have, those things that are left after caring for themselves and satisfying their worldly desires. You often hear me talk about giving out of our blessings to fulfill our shared mission and ministry. Based on today's readings, I think it is clear I'm not referring to the leftovers in our lives. Not like the scribes and the wealthy people Jesus points to in the disciples, but the real blessings we have. Blessings that, yes, enable us to live lives in safety and comfort, but also in peace and without fear. Blessings that are more than what jingles in our pocket, but what rests quietly in our hearts. Blessings that remind us that they are blessings given, not because we have earned them, but so that we might know God's grace and love and mercy through them. When we give out of our blessings, like the poor widow in today's gospel, we give of ourselves. Is Jesus asking us to give everything? Is he asking us to lay down our lives for another as he did for us? In a way, I think he is. Like the disciples who hear Jesus say that to give of ourselves is to give of all that we are and all that we have. You're probably thinking, he's got to be kidding. But Jesus doesn't kid. And he's not kidding when he tells them and us that when we give of ourselves in such a way, we will sacrifice those things the world thinks of as important for those that God values most. I don't think Jesus is asking us to become martyrs in the sense that we die for our faith or the faith of others, although this could happen. Our church year is filled with feasts and commemorations of people who gave out of their love and in doing so lost their worldly lives. Just as our national cemeteries remind us of those who gave completely of all that they had. Instead, I think Jesus is asking us to lay down or set aside those things in this life that offer us shallow happiness for the pure joy that is found in meeting the genuine needs of another. To understand this, all we need to do is look back to the promises we make during our baptism, or when we reaffirm our baptismal covenant as we did last week. Each promise helps us identify and set aside those things in our individual human nature that we cherish, so that in community we might realize the pure joy that comes out of the grace and peace found in reconciled relationships with God and one another. Once we've experienced pure joy like this of knowing God and each other, how could we ever imagine life without it? How many of us, once experiencing television with an antenna, would ever go back to watching it without? Likewise, once this joy is realized in our lives are changed forever. How dramatic is this change? As dramatic as the change a new recruit experiences that first day in boot camp. Having raised their hand in allegiance, they now begin to learn about the core values their enlistment oath professed that will guide them throughout their military career and probably the rest of their lives. Over time, recruits are changed from one type of person to another. And likewise, Christians go under a similar transformation with our baptism. Sort of like a military oath, the baptismal covenant helps define those core values that will guide us the rest of our lives. And whereas the military stresses values such as service before self or integrity in all things, at the heart of Christian values is God's love for us and our love for God. It is in this shared love that we find the values of friendship, loyalty, respect, and compassion to, with, and for each other. These core values are not unique to Christianity. But what sets Christians apart is that we recognize that we do not possess the will nor the strength to uphold them on our own. We are not an army of one. We do not define the community as it is. The Christian community exists and is upheld only with God's help and through the faithfulness of God's love. Someday, we will find ourselves in a position where we must support, maybe even defend, those in our community struggling against a power that seeks to oppress them. Therefore, we must prepare for a battle. A battle we know we cannot win on our own, just as thoroughly as the soldiers, airmen, and sailors prepare for theirs. And in the end, each of us becomes a veteran in the war against the power of sin. Some of us might even bear the visible scars of battle. And some of us will have wounds that run deep into our soul. Some will extol the benefits of being in the kingdom and army of God, and others will share the life-changing events that have occurred along the way. Some of us will stand out, like those saints we remember in the feasts of the church year. And some of us will blend quietly into the background, living simple lives faithful to our calling. It won't matter how our service is marked. What will matter is that we have never faced any of it alone. And that in the grace and peace of God's love, anything is possible. Because it is, there is hope. Amen.
Amen.